Grab your drinks and have a seat. It's time for serial killers.
Hi.
Hello.
If you listen to Crime Bitches this week, you might sound something. It might sound a little familiar.
Yeah, I had to remember where I was at. I mean, I've been so popular being on all these podcasts lately.
I'm T.
And I'm Jay.
And we are here to talk about serial
killers.
We did not do good on that one. We normally do good. We did not do good.
Serial killer.
So we are here to tell you, this is your weekly dose of a different day.
Murder.
A different serial killer.
And I apologize to everybody's eardrums because I was loud as shit.
And we are not going to jump into any sort of current true crime because I'm taking a break from that. And so we're just going to talk about things like what we're drinking. And we're also going to tell you that what we're drinking in this episode is most likely going to be the same as what we're drinking in the next episode.
Yeah, because we going back to back, son.
Because we are recording these back to back because Jay leaves tomorrow to go out of the country for like almost 2 weeks.
See you later.
For work. And so we have to pre-record all of it. And I'm not going to be like lying to y'all about the fact that I'm like drinking two different drinks when I'm not.
I'm off to see our listeners in Europe.
Oh, yes. He is going to Europe. He's going to Europe.
So hit me up if you're out there. Just kidding.
So, yeah, he's going there for work. So he's going to be busy. No, I'm not going with him. I don't think I would want to because of the flight, but also no. And so, yes, so we are pre-recording these. So I guess we'll just get right into what we be drinking. So what are you drinking today, Jay?
Because I'm leaving tomorrow and I decided to mow the lawn today. It was hot, so I'm drinking water to replenish my H2O.
The refreshing water. Cool. Okay, that's boring, but all right.
It is boring, but it's a necessity in life.
It's funny because when we started this podcast, we talked about how we were always going to drink coffee because we had this like ambition in our mind that we'd get up in the mornings on the weekends and record podcasts. That is not how it be.
Nah, then we realized there was, I don't know, this thing called life, and it gets in the way sometimes.
Well, and truth be told, I'm a night owl. I would much prefer stay up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and wake up at 10 o'clock in the morning. Wake up at like 10 in the morning, then to go to bed at 8 o'clock in the morning, wake up at 4 in the morning.
See, and this is what's hard about these flights that I take because they're long flights and people sleep. But it's like 9, 10 o'clock and people are falling asleep and I'm like, sissies.
Yeah.
I'm up watching a movie. I'm like the only one with my screen on.
Yeah. So, so we've changed from drinking coffee only to what we're drinking just in general. So what I am drinking is a diet A&W root beer. Not diet, sorry, 0 sugar A&W root beer. I drink soda sometimes not, but we just ate dinner. And that's what I had with my dinner. So that's what I be drinking. But that's it. That's all we got. That and probably some water by the time I'm, doing my second episode. Other than that, anything you want to address, talk about, say before we get into our week?
I don't think so. I think we'll give the people what they want. Which would be a serial killer.
Oh, well, then they're going to be disappointed because today it's 2 serial killers.
So they wouldn't be disappointed. They'd be even more excited. It's a bonus serial killer.
It's a double dose. Well, I mean, the jury's still out, to be honest with you, but we'll just see. So who are we talking about? We are talking about Ray and Faye Copeland. I swear to you, when I first started researching this, I thought they were brother and sister. Because, Ray and Faye, like if you had twins.
Well, when you hit the Ray and the for Faye, I was thinking Ray Finkel.
They're not, though. So they're not brother and sister. They have a total of 5 or more victims. Their murder dates are October 1986 to May 1989. Their location of murders is Mooresville, Missouri. Their method of murder is shooting, and their characteristic is robbery.
How many did you say they had?
5 or more.
5 or more.
You'll hear why. So we'll give like the tiniest, most minute little bit of background about Faye Copeland because there is not a lot about her. So Faye was born August 4th, 1921 in Harrison, Arkansas to Rufus and Gladys Wilson. So she was born Faye Della Wilson.
These are some great names.
I do. I am not.
Amazing.
Rufus and Gladys and
Yeah.
Faye. I just love it. I know she's a murderer, but I just love it.
The names are great.
She was raised in a poor household that had 7 children. And for the most part, there is nothing known about Faye's life prior to meeting Ray. It had been listed, though, that throughout her life, she had been a factory worker, a motel maid, and a nanny at some point. And Faye meets Ray in 1940, which she would have been 19 years old when they met. That's all I know about Faye. That's it. I don't know if it's because Ray is blamed more for the murders or if it's just nobody cares about Faye. I don't know because I find it very weird that there's like no information about her, but there's a fuck ton of information about Ray. So Ray Copeland was born December 30th, 1914 in Oklahoma. Now this was during the Great Depression when he was born, or like right after he was born, the Great Depression started, which was basically rough for pretty much anybody in the world or in the United States. And so his family had to move around quite a lot to try to find jobs and trying to find ways to like survive. So because of all this stuff, Ray ends up actually dropping out of school when he's in the 4th grade. And he literally drops out of school in the 4th grade to get a job, which is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, what are you going to be doing as a 4th grader?
Just go find ways to make money, right? But you figure this is during the Great Depression, so any way to make money is the best way. He is described by family members as being stubborn and insubordinate when he was little. And because he drops out of school when he's in 4th grade, this ends up leading to him living a life of petty crime, like in his kind of younger years. He actually started his life of crime by stealing pigs from his own father. And then he also does eventually get involved in check fraud and other like nonviolent crimes. And he does spend a few short stints in jail. So and that's like in his younger, like under the age of 19 years old. So he does a bunch of little things like that where he's by the time he meets Faye, he's already got like this really big criminal past. So in 1939, he gets arrested for check forgery and spends 1 year in jail. Well, when he gets out of jail in 1940, he meets Faye Wilson. Now, shortly after they meet, they get married. And this is actually how the story of Ray and Faye, like this is where their story really begins because again, it's the two of them. So that's just so you know. They get married within 6 months of meeting each other. And the following year, they have their first child, a little boy named Everett. They then have another child named Billy Ray 2 years later. Ray obviously has a criminal reputation, which does cause the family to have to move around a lot because he'll get caught doing crimes and they'll have to pack up and move to another place. So in 1944, he moves the family to Fresno, California. And that following year, Faye gives birth to a baby girl named Betty Lou. Betty Lou, Billy Ray.
Betty Lou Who.
Now in 1947, Faye gives birth to another child, a son named Alvia. And so that, if you're counting, that's 4 children that they had in a matter of 7 years of being married. Like they were married and just started popping out kids. In 1949, Ray is accused of stealing horses from a local farmer. And charges were never actually filed, but it forces Ray to move out of that area because nobody can trust him. Every time he'd apply for a job or try to do some sort of business, they'd be like, aren't you Ray the horse stealer? Like he had this nasty reputation in this area. And later that same year, Faye gives birth to another son, William Wayne. So they got Everett, Billy Ray, Betty Lou, Alvia, and William Wayne.
Well, 4 boys and 1 girl.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's their 5th child. Ray continues to try to find work in these places, but again, he's labeled as the horse stealer, so he moves his family back to Arkansas. Less than a month after they moved to Arkansas, Ray is arrested for cattle theft. I don't understand how you steal cattle. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
No,
this
that's
whole,
what I was just
I'm like
thinking
in my
head.
brain. I mean, I think I get it later on, but I don't quite understand how you would steal cattle. But okay. He was charged with grand larceny and sentenced to a year in jail because cattle's expensive. So he was definitely sentenced and he served some time. After Ray gets released from jail, he then has to move his family again because now he's known as the cattle stealer. And so nobody wants to give him a chance. So he moves the family to Rocky Comfort, Missouri. In 1951, Ray is arrested again for cattle theft. He is sentenced to manual labor on the judge's farm in this area.
Damn.
And I'm pretty sure it's in the Rocky Comfort, Missouri area that they were living in. He gets, he has to do manual labor. Now in 1953, because Ray again in Rocky Comfort is known as cattle thief, he has to move the family and he moves them to Illinois. And over the next 8 years, the family moves from town to town to town to town because it's like a revolving door. They move to a town, they move in, he steals cattle, he steals horses, he writes bad checks, whatever, gets caught, earns a reputation, moves somewhere else. Ray was actually arrested at least 3 different times during those 8 years for writing bad checks, just for writing bad checks. That doesn't include any time that he got caught stealing cattle or whatever. Now in 1961, so this is how I think they did the cattle theft thing. So in 1961, Ray paid for some cattle. He wrote a $2,960 check to a man who was selling his cattle, to which the seller finds out fairly quickly that the check is fraudulent. Ray is arrested and he spends the next 9 months in jail. So I think what he was doing is he was writing bad checks for cattle, taking them, and then they would find out that it was a fake check, and then it's now considered not just check fraud, but stealing because he stole the cattle.
Got rid of the
because he would sell the
horse
cattle.
or cow or whatever.
Yeah. So he would basically, you know what it makes me think of? Yellowstone.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think of Yellowstone. Like he was buying a bunch of cattle to turn around and sell them for money, but he wasn't actually paying for them because he was stealing them. So he's arrested, sent to jail for 9 months. Literally, right after he gets released from jail, Ray goes out and writes a bad check. Literally, like the same day. Gets out of jail, goes and writes a bad check for the purchase of more cattle. What he just fucking went to jail for. And he again gets caught and gets another 9 months in jail. So he is not learning like at all.
Or maybe with 5 kids, the house was crazy and he's like, dude, I just want to go back to jail.
Sure, I guess. This jail stint supposedly is the one that flipped a switch in Ray. And it's almost like you want to believe he flipped a switch for the better, right? So he decides on this jail stint, he's got to find another way to make money because he is spending more time in jail than he is with his family. And he is spending more time getting caught and they have no money. They're poor, or his wife has to try to make ends meet while his family is basically suffering. And it's all because he's trying to make money, but he gets caught because he's really bad at stealing cattle, apparently. So in the summer of 1966, Ray moves his family to Missouri. And in 1967, the Copelands buy a farm that has 40 acres of land. They paid $6,000 for this.
That's crazy. 40 acres for $6,000.
That makes me fucking want to throw up. $6,000? I mean, shit. Half an acre is like $350,000 to $400,000 with no house on it.
Yep.
Like, what the actual hell? But yes, they bought this farm. And this farm was in Mooresville, Missouri. And I actually don't know anything about Mooresville, but my guess is $6,000 was probably still quite a bit of money. But that still seems really low to me for 40 acres. So I'm assuming it's like a smaller town. Maybe like not up and coming. At this point, the family is now desperately in need of money because now they have this farm that they have to pay for. And somehow, some way they have to bring in money. So Faye tells Ray, I'm going to go get a job. Like, I'm going to go get a job and I'm going to make some money. And then you stay here and work on the farm. So, and then I'll help you with the farm too, but we got to have income. So she goes out and actually gets a couple of different jobs. And then Ray stays and starts doing all the farm stuff, whatever they're doing. I think what they were doing, it's like cattle and horses. He was trying to have like a cattle ranch. So he would buy the horses and cattle.
So he wouldn't have to steal them anymore.
Raise them, sell them, make the money. In the 1970s, Ray is now known to pick up hitchhikers and have them work on his farm. And neighbors even started to notice that there was people that were showing up at Ray's farm that were very unbecoming. They looked very raggedy. They did not look like your typical farmhand. And they could tell that he was not hiring real farmhands. He was literally just like taking random people off the street. His neighbors fucking hated him. They accused him of beating his children, of beating his wife. They actually reportedly told people that they felt he was a penny pinching old man.
Which he might have been, because not having money, like, sure, you're going to penny pinch.
Yeah, so he was born in 1914 and this is the 1970s. So he's in his, 60s?
Yeah.
So he would be a penny pinching old man. And I don't have an issue with that, but it's not that he was penny pinching and like in a good way. It sounds like he was withholding funds from his family, hiring people that have no business being on farms and bringing people in to this community that probably shouldn't be brought into this community.
Well,
so
I've been doing the math for a little bit here, and we're still 10 years away from the murders, which means they're old people murdering.
They are old people murdering. You're right. Mm-hmm. Now she is, to be fair, she is like 7 or 8 years younger than him. She was born in 21. So she's 7 years younger than him.
Yeah, but she's still in her 60s.
She'd be in her late 50s, early 60s. Yeah. As I said, Ray was known for picking up hitchhikers to help on his farm. He would use these drifters and hitchhikers that he picked up to help him with all of his fraudulent activities, because he wasn't trying to like turn over a new leaf and be a farmer. He was just finding a better way to be fraudulent. He would hire them as farmhands. So he would pick up these drifters or hitchhikers. He'd offer them a job. He would get them to take his bad checks to go buy cattle at the cattle markets. They would buy the cattle at the cattle markets. They would bring the cattle back to him. He would then quickly sell the cattle. He would have buyers lined up. He would sell the cattle, and then the farmhands, he'd like kick them out. Like, okay, that's all I need you for, and that's it. He didn't want them to stick around. He didn't keep them hired for long times, because as soon as they sold or they wrote that bad check, that falls on to the farmhands. So they disappear. He's like, get out. I don't want anything to do with you. Now, this scam does work for a while, but eventually the police catch on, and Ray is actually sent back to jail for this. And when he gets released, he made sure at this point that he would never, ever get caught, because none of his farmhands would ever be able to link them to him again.
Which means he gets rid of them. He takes them to the bus station.
Train station.
Or train station.
That's why I said it reminds me of Yellowstone. So August of 1989, a former employee of the Copelands, Jack McCormick, calls Crime Stoppers. And do you remember Crime Stoppers?
Absolutely do.
So he calls Crime Stoppers and he tells them this fucking crazy wild story that they're like, bro, like, what? He basically tells them that he worked for this couple, the Copelands, and he had worked on their farm, and he had actually found human bones on their farm. And then he says, also, Ray Copeland, the husband, tried to kill me on a certain occasion. I think there's something to this story. Like, I think there's something to this farm. You guys might want to check it out. Police at first are like, okay, buddy, lay off grandpa's cough medicine, right? Like they absolutely were like, that's
stop
the fucking
calling Crime Stoppers and call Dare.
Yeah, they're like, that is okay. But to do what you should do, they're like, you know what? We're just going to do a little quick searcheroo of Ray and Faye Copeland. Okay. So they do a background check type thing, and they discover that Ray has a very extensive criminal background. And they're like, okay, well, he doesn't have murder in his background, but he's got a lot of fraudulent activities in his background. We might just want to go check it out. Maybe just go have a conversation. And so in October of 1989, the police go over to the Copeland farm. When they show up to the farm, because of who they're dealing with, because they know that Ray has this background, they decide they're going to show up armed. They're going to show up with a search warrant, and they're going to show up with some sniffer dogs. Because at this point, we're already going out there. We have suspicions that he's obviously a criminal of some sort. Let's just bring it all. They do end up finding 3 bodies of young men in the barn on the Copeland farm. And they also discover even more bodies like throughout the farm. It is discovered that all of the bodies that had been found were killed with the same weapon, which was a .22 caliber Marlin rifle. This weapon happened to have been found in the Copeland's home.
No.
Now, each man had been shot in the back of the head at close range. And inside the house, they find a register with the names of different farmhands. Like all the different people who have showed up, like a name and when they were there, like the date, like whatever. It's just a thing that makes them keep track of it. Police actually end up using this register to help identify the bodies because in this register, there are 12 names inside this. There's more than 12, but there are 12 specific names that have an X next to them. Now, the X is written in Faye's handwriting. So not only did they find this register with a bunch of X'd out men, whatever, they found the rifle, they found the bodies, they also find a quilt that is handmade by Faye using clothing that belonged to the dead men.
That's creepy.
Now, it's important, please remember what I just said. They found a quilt made with the dead men's clothing made by Faye, and they also found a ledger that had Faye's handwriting in the ledger. Okay? Now, the victims are identified as, so they found 5 bodies. The victims are Dennis K. Murphy from Normal, Illinois. He was killed October 17th, 1986. My guess is, based off of the ledger, they were able to put dates to them. Wayne Warner from Illinois was killed November 19th, 1986. Jim Dale Harvey, who was 27 from Springfield, Missouri, was killed October 25th, 1988. John W. Freeman, who was 27 from Tulsa, Oklahoma, was killed December 8th, 1988. And Paul J. Cowart, who was 21 from Dardendale, Arkansas, was killed May 1st, 1989. Now, the Copelands are charged with all 5 murders. And in November of 1990, Faye goes to trial. She depicts herself, and she is depicted by her attorney as a dutiful wife and mother who had been treated very badly and had been beaten by Ray a lot over her life. And her attorney was trying to persuade the court that she suffered from battered woman syndrome, which is why she didn't partake in them, but she was the one who, she did what her husband told her to do, basically, and that she was too afraid to leave and she was too afraid to, yada, yada, yada. Now, the jury does acknowledge they absolutely believe that she was a battered wife. They absolutely believe she was beat. They absolutely believe that Ray was extremely abusive to her. But they felt that it was not an excuse for her involvement in the murders. So it was not which is what we say.
Yep.
You can't excuse away that behavior. And I know that there's psychological things around it, but it doesn't matter. You still have to have accountability. It doesn't matter if you were if you have battered wife syndrome and you're just doing everything your husband says, you still have to pay. You killed people, right? You have to pay for what you did.
Or if you didn't kill him, you participated in covering it up, or
right?
whatever.
And
you
be fair,
you were a participant.
To be fair, you also, in my opinion, if you are really a battered wife, though, you probably should get a lesser sentence because your mind wasn't thinking correctly, but you don't get off scot-free. So they agree, and they find her guilty of 4 counts of murder and 1 count of manslaughter. She is sentenced to 4 death sentences and 1 life sentence.
God damn.
Yeah, which I was like, "Ooh, that's a little much." Like, to me, even I, who am like pretty whatever, that's where I'm like, I feel like she could have gotten maybe a lesser sentence. Now, Faye does try to appeal the conviction based on the fact that the jury did not get to hear all the evidence of abuse that Ray had inflicted upon her. And in August of 1999, her death sentences are overturned and she ends up with 5 life sentences without parole. I still think that's a lot.
I mean, it is a lesser sentence.
It's a lesser sentence, but I still feel like, I don't know. I mean, I guess they felt that maybe she was, I don't know. Anyways, Ray goes to trial in March of 1991, and he is found guilty of all 5 murders as well, and he is sentenced to death as well. On October 19th of 1993, Ray actually dies in prison, and his body is cremated. So he only makes it 2 years into his death row sentence anyways.
I mean, he's old, though.
He was old. Okay, so to be fair, that is the story of Ray and Faye Copeland, but I do have some shots.
Oh, and that's what we made it here for.
When Ray found out that his wife had been sentenced to death as well, he said, and I quote, like the attorney's looking to say, oh, hey, they just came back and Faye, she's got the death penalty. What would you say? What would you say? If it was me and you?
No.
Yeah, you'd be like, what the fuck? Especially if I didn't kill anybody, but I was helping cover it up.
Bro, if we were doing that and we got busted, I'd be like, it was all me. She had nothing to do with it.
Well, I mean, obviously, but if I got the death penalty, I'm sure he'd be a little upset, right? So when Ray finds out, his response is, well, those things happen to some, And he was completely emotionless. Completely emotionless.
It was a good ride, Billy.
Like, it was like, what the fuck? So then on August 10th of 2002, so this is later in life, Faye actually suffers a stroke while she's in prison, and she is left partially paralyzed and unable to speak. She is granted a medical parole in September of 2002, and she is sent to a nursing home in Missouri, and she ends up dying there at the age of 82. So to be fair, even though she was unable to speak, and she was paralyzed, which is awful, she did not die in prison. She died in a nursing home, where we can most definitely agree that she got probably better care in there than she did in prison, which at 82 years old, I would hope that, again, the jury's out on how I feel about Faye. The jury is fucking out on how I feel about what her role in this was. Now, until her medical parole, Faye had been the oldest female on death row. And there is a comic book that is called Family Bones, and this actually features the story of the Copelands, and it was created by a nephew of the Copelands.
Wow.
Now, Faye said, this is what Faye said, and I quote, Faye said, I begged Ray time and time again to please stay out of trouble. We had our home and everything paid for. We were on Social Security. So why would he turn around and mess all of that up just like he has? Okay. She also claimed in court she knew nothing of the murders. So this is why the jury is out on Faye, because you definitely knew about the murders, Faye, because you X'd out the body. You X'd out their names after they died. You took their fucking clothes and made blankets out of them. You knew they died. So when you tell me you didn't know, now it makes me second guess your guilt. If she would have come out and said, listen, I knew that they had died, but I was just doing I didn't want my husband to be, whatever. I was just doing what he told me to. I would probably believe that, but she continued to deny knowing anything about it for a very long time. Now, after Ray found out about Faye getting the death penalty, and he said, well, those things happen to some, he never asked to see her, speak to her, or anything again. He just
he was done. He was like,
wrote her off. So in 1990, she is found guilty of these murders, and she was given the death penalty. He was like, oh well.
Well, that happened.
Like, what kind of person are you? Which is that's why the jury's out with Faye, because he definitely didn't care. Like, you could tell he didn't care. And I don't think he started out to be a murderer. He was trying to find a way to protect his fraudulent activity. But I definitely think she knew about it. She had to have known. She had to have known, because her own quote says, "We were on Social Security. We had everything fine. I don't know why he messed this up." She asked him to stop doing things, and he killed, how many. Now, the actual thought is that they killed a total of 12 people, because there are 12 people in that book who are X'd out.
Which would make sense.
So now here's the big question. Do you think Faye was willingly involved, or do you think she was just a victim who was doing what she was told? Now, again, in no way, shape, or form do I believe that she didn't know what was going on. But I don't know if she should have been punished with a death penalty or a life sentence, because I would venture to guess she didn't have anything to do with the murders. I think you're correct when you said, like, she might have covered up the crimes, but she might not have even covered them up. And in my honest opinion, I personally think she was a victim of abuse. And I think her husband killed people, and I think she did what he told her to. And what are you going to do with the clothes off of these men's back? So he gives them to her, and she makes a blanket out of them. I don't know. I'd burn them.
Yeah,
or bury them. Well, I don't know. Like, that just seems weird.
And I think if all the red X's do mean, that's 12 people.
Yeah, that's 12 people.
Like, you can't tell me you didn't know.
That's my say. Yeah,
I understand you were probably getting beat. Physically, emotionally, whatever, but it's still 12 people.
I agree.
It's almost like they sentenced her based off the 12 people, not the 5 that they found.
Well, and I think what really stuck with the jury, if I'm being honest, because I know this would stick with me, because that's what I keep thinking about, is she is the one who X'd out their names. She is the one who built the quilt with these people's clothing. If she hadn't, if I could even see, if she had not done the quilt, the Xing, I could be like, yeah, but it's an X. Like, she could have just been like, oh, that guy's gone. She could have maybe thought they disappeared. But the minute you find out she built a quilt out of their clothing, I'm like, there's no way that your husband's like, they went away naked.
That's like
what?
To me, that's like soft Chainsaw Massacre.
That's not a lie.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm not 100% sold on the fact that she was a victim.
Yeah.
I don't know. But again, we don't know a lot about her background, and everything that I've seen about her, I think that's why we don't know her background, because I don't think she has a background like a bad background to push her into that direction.
Well, and you think about it, like, let's say, okay, we're not going to give you a bigger sentence. We're going to give you 10 years for each person. She still wouldn't have made it.
Yeah, but I don't even think she should have gotten that. If they think that she really was suffering from battered woman syndrome and was doing what her husband wanted just to, like, save herself, I do think that you most definitely should do time. But first of all, manslaughter at best. At best, manslaughter. So the fact she had 4 murders and 1 manslaughter.
So let's say you get manslaughter, so you get 5 years for each.
Sure.
That's 25 years. She still didn't.
Yeah, but she died when she was 80, what did I say, like 83? So you figure she went into, no, she wouldn't have probably made it anyways, because she went into prison in 1990 and died in 2002.
Yeah.
So yeah, but at least you're right. I guess no matter what sentence she would have had, she would have probably died in prison. But it's just the fact that they were willing to, honestly, okay, I'm fucking mean, because for reals, my big thought is y'all were willing to put a 60. Well, let's see here. How old would, okay, so 91 is when Ray was sentenced, and he was born in 1912. So how old was he?
79.
Okay. And she was born in 1921, and she was sentenced in 1990. Okay, so she was 69.
So she was 69.
She was 69. He was 78, you said. Okay. So you're telling me that you as a jury was willing to put to death a 78-year-old man and a 60.
Murder knows no age. All right.
To me, that's hard.
Yeah.
And actually, they were the two oldest people ever to be to be sentenced to death.
Well, and there might have been more to the trial or whatever that made them choose those.
I'm sure it is, but I'm just sitting there like,
because if it was up to a jury and that
was.
many people, well, what I'm saying though, and that many people agreed to it, so there was more.
know.
I think there was probably more than just.
I'm
some
sure.
red
I'm
X's
sure there
and-
was,
and,
but I just sit there
you
and
know,
I'm just
a
like,
quilt.
but it's not even just her. Ray was a 78-year-old man. And you literally, first of all, you thought giving him the death sentence was going to do shit anyways. He's 78 years old.
I mean, you got to stick to the law, though. Don't murder people.
You don't have to give everybody a death penalty, though. You could have given him life in prison, because here's the difference. I guess this is why it bothers me. When you put somebody death sentence, they live on death row, which is a horrific fucking place to live. So you sentenced a 78-year-old man to death row, a 69-year-old woman to death row, who who most people would probably argue that she didn't actually kill anybody. She was just an accomplice. And you sentenced her to sit her ass on death row. That's just
my
harsh
thing is,
to me.
Is if it's a 30-year-old man who killed 5 people and they get put on death row, it shouldn't matter if it's 30 or 79. You did the crime, you do the time.
Sure, except for the conditions are just not very good. That's all I'm saying. So for her having a stroke, no wonder she had a fucking stroke.
Well, the condition of the people that were buried in the ground weren't very good
I understand.
either.
I'm not giving him a pass. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if I was on the jury, I don't think I could genuinely send maybe I could send Ray, but I would have a hard time sentencing a 69-year-old woman who there is absolute proof of her abuse in her, in her trial. I would have a hard time sending somebody like that to death row.
Maybe we'll find out come October. Jury duty. All right.
Jury duty, but I'm not going to be able to. Well, we'll see. I said if I get picked, because we got to call in and shit. If I get picked for jury duty, I have to be honest about my podcast, and they're immediately going to kick me out anyway. So it's not going to matter. Anyways, that is the story of Ray and Faye Copeland. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy listening to us. As always, please follow us. Please like us and share us and all the things that we say every single week.
And let us know your thoughts. Was it too harsh? Was it not too harsh? How do you feel? Let us know. Send us a DM.
Do it. Anyways, other than that, thank you very much for listening to the story of the married couple who killed men as an old married couple.
Mm-hmm.
Until next week. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Remember to lock your doors and bar your windows. Until next time.